Good evening, everybody. This is Robin with another edition of Horror Pop After Midnight. And my guests tonight are filmmakers Alberto Corredor and Christina Pamies. How's it going, guys?
Hi.
I checked out your horror film, Baghead, which was on Shudder. I was very amazed by it. And also, when that film first came out, before it came on Shudder, it came out on my birthday on December 28th. Go figure.
Nice.
So let's talk about Baghead. So you were one of the writers, and you also wrote with Bryce McGuire as well. And you had another writer. So how'd you guys get together to come up with Baghead? Was it like based off like an urban legend you guys heard about growing up, or how did it become to be?
Well, I was going off when I came in, this short already existed. And so I had a great piece of source material to work off of and have as a jumping off point. So, for me, it was just building on that really great, that start. And so, Alberto, you were there, though, from the inception. So maybe you can speak a little more on that.
Yes, the original story with this character was written for a short by Lorcan Rayleigh. We shot the short at the end of 2017 with the idea of creating an interesting character that we could expand later in a transfer to feature. So when we took that short around in the festival circuit, we managed to do enough to make enough contacts, and we found the guys from the picture company who were really interested in making the transfer to feature. And that's how the whole process started. Through them, I got also representation. And it turns out that the same agency represents Christina. So from the very beginning, we were looking for a writer. The first idea was also to have a female writer because the main character was supposed to be female too. And we had also the witch. It was a lot involved in finding someone who could connect a bit better with the characters. And the truth is that the story, and you can talk about that, Christina, started in a different way as what you see now in the movie. The protagonist was a bit older, and there was another kind of premise for the story, but all the elements were there before we cast Freya, and we had to slightly change the story. But Christina, you can say, because Christina did this daring thing that some writers do, that they just send something. Maybe I can get this story right, and you send an outline, and it turns out that it was the right approach.
Yeah, I mean, I think these stories always shift as you're in development and trying to build something from a short into a whole feature film. But I think all the elements were there in the short. That's why it was so fun to work with. And so that's what kind of drew me to wanting to throw my hat in the ring to be the one to help develop the story, because I loved this character of the witch. She was fascinating. And it's sort of, I loved this misdirect in the original short of, you think you're seeing a movie about one thing, and then it sort of shifts on you and becomes something else. I thought that was great. And I really just wanted to broaden that out more. I wanted to know more about this person, this supernatural being who is being held prisoner, and what that means. What's the ramifications of that? I thought that was all just fascinating. So it was a lot of fun to just let my mind wander from there and come up with like the wildest ideas I could within this world that they created.
Yeah, remember, don't break the 2 minutes. I like that. I like the part of it about the witch. Now, let's talk about it. It talks about a young girl, who gets a message from her strangled father, who owned this, like, mysterious pub over in Germany, Berlin. And she was trying to look for money and find a place to live. And when she got there, she quite didn't understand the responsibility of carrying this family like curse, and finding out about the witch in the basement, where she went way over her head, started doing it for profit. And then that's when you get the one crazy guy comes in who wanted to see his wife. So Freya Allen, who played Iris, was she your ideal cast to play Iris in the film?
Yeah, well, as I say, it was my first movie, so I didn't know really how this casting process worked. And I have to say, when we had the story from Christina, it was an older character. But it turns out that the picture company had already shot a movie, Gunpowder Milkshake, where Freya was involved. The studio really liked Freya, and she was coming out of this huge hit with the Witcher. So when the studio managed to get Freya interested, and we spoke about the possibility of joining the process, we had to slightly change that story to make it, because Freya, her character, we couldn't. The original idea with Christina was that the Iris would try to open the pub again and restart business, and so the approach of meeting the witch was a bit different. And when Freya joined, we have to slightly change the story. But I think all the elements were there. It was quite based on a part of the story in the short, which was the Neil character, and how you are expecting this person to come and try to find closure in the basement when he's talking to the witch, but actually having another hidden motives. So it was this, what Christina was talking about, trying to go beyond the expectations that you have as an audience, because it would be easy to expect all the characters to do the same, but they all have their own motivations. And Neil was an important character in terms of this story, because it was also a kind of a metaphor for these men that during the centuries have kept the witch captive in that basement.
Yeah, Freya did a good job. She prepared her role pretty good. You can tell she really dug deep into her character to portray Iris and her, encounters with the witch, to see stuff about her dead ones and learn a little bit more dark history about her family and father. I mean, she really nailed it pretty well. Let's talk about the witch. Who played the witch? That witch gave me chills and kept me on the edge of my seat. How that actor would move its body around, the mannerisms, the creaks. It felt like I was really in there witnessing this creepy witch.
Yeah, it's a German actress, it's Anne Müller, and it's a funny story because coming from the shore, where I think one or the main asset was the iconic witch that we managed to portray visually, and the great performance that we got, we wanted to have something similar for the future. So we were aiming to have someone playing the witch that was a bit older, to play on this frailty and so on. But at some point we realized that is not going to work, because the story is so different, that there is so much physicality on it, that we needed a different approach. And my first idea, Laura Mijartescu, knew Anne Müller from before, so she brought a video of one of her performances, and it was quite scary. So we invited her to have a chat with Anne Müller, and she was so intense in person. She's quite a remarkable, not only actress, I could say also performer, and she took the witch so seriously in terms of connecting to the motivations and so on, even if she's playing most of the time behind the burlap sack, and that it was done there and then. The decision was easily made, and I think she brings out this mix between a time representing someone that is really old, and that you have this vulnerability, this frailty, but also at some moments really physicality to the role that is needed.
I think so too. And since you were also the director, every directors have their unique style of filmmaking, how they want to film it. So where was this pub film? And I loved your uniqueness behind the camera, because when you film certain scenes in the pub, I like the dark and gray coal themes and lighting in the pub, which made it really eerie and creepy, and it also made it feel like it was part of the character, one of the characters in the story. I just love the dark and gray lighting and the coldness you feel with the characters in the pub, and especially down in the basement.
Yeah, it was shot in Berlin. because of practical and logistical reasons. We were coming out of COVID, and everyone was crazy. They all wanted to shoot because we have been in lockdown, and all the projects were stopped. So the moment they opened, it was very difficult to find crew, to find cast, to find even equipment. So the producers had been shooting in Germany already, so they had already a crew in place for the latest film that they had with Liam Neeson, Retribution. And they said, why don't we move the story to Berlin? Because it would then impact the story itself, and it would make our logistics so much easier. And I had lived in Germany before, so I say, okay, Berlin is a cool place, and we can embrace this quirkiness, this oddness that is in Berlin, for all in the architecture and in all the elements that you can find there that you don't find anywhere else. So we embraced that, and we created the pub in kind of a mansion, a German mansion, with also some of the living quarters over there. But the basement, we built it. We marked it. The production designer built it on a stage in Babelsberg Studios in Berlin, because, believe it or not, it was really, really difficult to find something that had the personality of the basement that we were looking for, but also the practicalities of it. Because in Berlin, there were amazing basements, and I think we look at all of them, or most of them that we could look for, but there was always a problem in terms of what you could do or not there. And as we had a very intense 3 weeks shooting in the basement, we decided it's better to recreate it in a sound stage where we can work a bit faster, and it's also better for all the crew and the cast.
Christina, let's talk about the witches, like makeup design, which made it really creepy. Who came up with that? That was some good work.
I mean, I think a lot of that is right. The short set the tone from the beginning, right? When I saw the short, I was blown away by, how much of an icon this witch was already. I mean, she stood out in ways that all these great villains stand out just because of this iconic look. So I think it was there from the beginning, and then once you have a feature film budget, you can just build off of that and make her stand out and make her just so so iconic. What do you think, Alberto?
Yeah, it's we had, as Christina says, we got a very good basis for all in the costume, and the mannerism of the witch was already established in the short. And the idea, it was, at some point we had to show more of what was behind the burlap. And for that we had Birger. Birger Laube is very well known in the world of prosthetics in cinema, and he did a fantastic job in just not recreating what we have in the short for the hands and the feet and so on, everything that you could see that is not behind the burlap, but also the face. I have to admit, I was very concerned and very scared of how could it pan out, because in the short we got away with only showing the lower part of the mouth, and it was already creepy, and we had that reference. But the rest, it was just a debate with Birger. What do we want to show in this character? What is the story behind? What's the backstory? How was she, so to say, created, or what is the origin story of the witch, and how that reflect in her body and in her face? And the idea was to have some kind of runes marking in her head, the eye that she lost, and to show that she has suffered, that she has suffered abuse at some point, and that's also what has pushed her to go, let's say, to the other side, and to become someone more preoccupied on bringing grief, but also on trying to get out of her predicament. And that, I think, worked quite well with the costume design and with the prosthetics. I
think so too. It's pretty perfect, and I loved how you wrote it, and you guys ended the film. I thought it was ended good. I was satisfied for it, and I'm not gonna lie, I was actually really happy for the witch towards the end of the film, because she deserved it, man. Like you said, all that torment, all that, punishment and all that, and then them using her for her ability and all that. I ain't gonna lie, I also kind of felt for the witch a little bit in the film too. I kind of felt the emotions off the witch, how hard it was for her to be like a prisoner in this basement.
Yeah, I think that was intentional from the start. I think one of the classic pieces of advice for people who are writing horror and creating horror stories is to write about what scares you personally. And I think when you go into history and look at the stories about witches, what's really frightening isn't necessarily the witch, it's how normal people, regular people responded to someone who is different and someone who isn't easily understood. So I think that was always a seed of a theme that came into this film from the beginning and from the short, and we just wanted to pull that out as much as possible and reflect that in the ending and the whole film, really.
Yeah, so Christina...
It's also and that is credit to Christina when she sent us the outline of what she thought would be the perfect story for Beckett. It was the final twist, this kind of metaphor that she managed to create in terms of how she comes on top, in a sense. And how can you manage to, like you said, get a satisfying ending? Because for me, the ending was like, this is a twist that I find so satisfying because it feels right. Is something that sometimes when you're watching a movie, you think that you find like the ending or the twists are a bit forced. But in the case of what Christina developed for this story, it was like, it feels like the right ending. And on top of that, it's very satisfying. And it has some, I don't know, it's like she was saying, there is this dark history of how women were treated and how this witchcraft was used as an excuse. And in this story, I think there is a kind of payback, which I felt it was the satisfying part.
I think so too, and I love the ending of the film. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it. I love that pan shot at the ending of the film, like outside of the pub towards the end of the film. That perfect shot, I just loved it. It was just a perfect moment, and it was very satisfying. That was an awesome pan shot.
Yeah, it's the ending went through many iterations and many things that we were trying to do. And without spoiling a lot, it was all about finding also the right timing. Believe it or not, this panning shot took a long time to execute because the timings were difficult. To a certain point, we were having our doubts: is that going to pay off or not? But I think that now you can see the result because I think it ties up all what we have saying. We have been saying before, and using this basement also of this contained space, this space where you want to get out but you cannot. And by the end of the story, we wanted to use the way we shoot it also to emphasize what the witch has managed to do.
So, Christina, have you ever wrote horror before you've done Baghead?
Yeah, I'm a big horror fan. Big horror fan, always has been my comfort zone. I've been writing horror screenplays, and I write horror prose short stories, and it's, the last 15 or so years has been like, that's been where I always go. If I want to write something that feels really cozy and familiar to me, for some reason, paradoxically, that's horror for me. I don't know. I think because I've been a fan since I was, literally a child, I think that's what always feels like coming home to me as a writer.
I bet it is. When most filmmakers do horror short films or horror films, they base their films off of their traumas or something that's happened in their life. So some of your stories you've done, Christina, has it come from some of your trauma or some stuff in your life?
I think for sure, almost. I mean, all horror tends to deal with trauma or grief or existential dread. I think it's just safe ways to explore these feelings. And I think, we tend to exercise our demons that way through storytelling, either as a viewer or as a creator. Sometimes we're not even aware of it. I think a lot of times I'll write something and it's not until a year or two later where I connect the dots and remember something that happened or some feeling I was feeling or something I was overcoming, and I'm like, oh, that's what that was about. But it takes like a little bit of time and maturity to kind of realize that, that's where it came from. But I mean, I think horror, this genre in particular, is often about exercising these personal demons in ways that a lot of other genres aren't. I tend to associate like sci-fi with more, exploring humanity and exploring society's ills, but horror feels so much more intimate to me and personal. And so that's like, I don't know, that's like I said, that's where I keep coming back to, because it just feels like, it feels like so much to mine psychologically.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. And what about you, Alberto? How big of a horror fan are you?
Yeah, I would consider me one of the 1% that are completely obsessed with horror. I mean, it's what I grew up. I always, and I do it in all interviews, I always blame my mom, because she's also a horror fan, and she allowed me from a very early age to watch all these horror movies and get me traumatized, but also get me very excited about telling these kind of stories. And I agree with Christina. I would say horror has always been looked down in film or in art, even in literature. Like this genre thing that crazy people enjoy, and why would you like to be scared and this kind of stuff. I think there is a part where is this being scared is good, because you want to feel alive. It's the same as when you are watching an action movie and you get excitement. It's not being scared, but you are being scared for someone else, in a sense. While in horror, most of the time, the good horror is when you get scared for whatever reason. But it's also, I think horror stories allow you to put characters in very extreme situations, because the stakes cannot be higher. Like in Bucket, the stakes cannot be higher than losing your soul. You can die, but you die of luck. But if you lose your soul, it's something a bit deeper. So when you put the characters in these extreme situations, it's very interesting to see how they react and how they try to come out of them, and also how these situations bring back the trauma or the hidden things that are in people or in families.
All right, I got a couple questions for you guys, for both of you guys. Okay. Who would survive in a horror film and be the last person surviving? You, Alberto, or Christina?
It would not be me.
Oh, it has to be Christina. It's always the final girl. Come on.
That's true. I guess, when you want to go with the tropes.
Yeah, of course. And anyway, I'm a bit clumsy and too curious, so I would be the first one to go into the basement and get killed straight away. Damn it, I should have come first. Christina's smarter anyway, so she could survive at least longer.
I would definitely run, so maybe that would keep me safe. I would definitely be like out of there and not be lingering around to check out the horror. So I'm like, no, I've got kids, so I got to get out of here. I don't know, but it would not be for my fighting ability or my ability to like outsmart my way out of a situation. It would much more be like I'm the first one to just leave, to just walk out of the room.
Sheer speed. That's good. Thank you. Yeah.
Now, since you guys are big horror fans, what is your go-to horror film that you can watch over and over again? It's just your go-to.
That's a terrible question. It's like telling me, who do you prefer, dad or mom? It's like, I don't know. The Thing is very good, but Alien is also
Alien. That's a good one.
I mean, if I could only take one horror movie, that would be very difficult. I think I would go for The Thing.
Ooh.
I've been doing a big 1970s nostalgic rewatch of a lot of those movies, and like Suspiria and the original Omen and Don't Look Now. Don't Look Now, actually, it kind of rocketed to the top of my list just because I didn't remember it very well, but then rewatching it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so out of left field, and I loved every minute of it. So right now, that's the forefront of my mind. So that's the one I'm thinking about right now.
Ooh, that's a good one. The Thing's pretty good too. My go-to always will be the original Phantasm. Angus Scrimm is the tall man. Still freaks me out today.
Yeah, it's funny because I was asked to write about something that movies that scare you for life, and they say, please don't choose The Thing, Alien, or this one. I said, damn it. And then I thought, I remember watching this really, really odd movie, Phantasm. And that's the one that I choose for that article, because I remember the movie was very scary already. I was very young, too young for my own good to watch it. But then you're watching it, and all of a sudden they have this scene where they are looking at the photograph, and the bloody people move in the photograph. I mean, I think I just shut my pants on that moment because it was so scary that I still remember it.
Yeah, that part scared me. The part that scared me in Phantasm was at the end where you see the young boy in bed. He thought it was all over, and he's just staring at him, and you hear that deep voice going, "Come here, boy." That scarred me when I was a little kid, because when that came out, I was way little too.
That is a very good choice. Very good choice.
I'm surprised they haven't did a reboot of it. I mean, every other movie's got a reboot. I'm surprised someone's never touched it.
I think it's, I don't know what Christina thinks, but that is a very challenging movie to remake, because the whole attractiveness of it is that it's so out of tune, so wonky, so just plainly weird that it makes you feel it in your bones. So to reproduce that is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Christina's like, I know you've seen it too, Christina. So what's your thoughts? What was that one thing that scarred you out of Phantasm?
I don't know. I don't think that's one I actually don't remember well enough to speak on. There's so many, like, I don't know, like, I think I did see that when I was a little bit older. Mm-hmm. I think so. It wasn't one of those childhood scarring moments for me. Unlike a few, I mean, like, there's a few others. Like, probably if I was to pick a moment from a movie that scarred me as a child, it would be from like one of the Chucky movies. You know, it wouldn't necessarily be from, you know, like something like Alien, which I saw when I was older. But like, gosh, I mean, you're right. I don't know. I don't understand. Like, I'm surprised. Anything. I don't know. You can mine. I know it is like partially tone, so it's hard to imagine that being redone. But I don't know. I mean, I think it could be, right. Like, if you can read everything can be rebooted for the new generation of people.
Christina is looking for. Let me write the.
Yeah, give me a stab at it. Sure. No,
let's do it. Yeah.
That'd be. So on Baghead, how it ended. Will there be a sequel? Will we see whatever happens to the witch next, or what?
That's always the last question that I get, and I always say the same thing. Is like, I don't know, maybe if there is interest from the audience, from the studio, from the producers, why not? I think it's an interesting character, but probably I would be more interested in what happened before.
Prequel.
I think, if we talk about prequel, what was the story of the witch, really? Just to see it, to feel it, and how was she treated during those hundreds of years? What happened? What was the people who were in charge? How all of that worked? Because we get on that story when we're almost a bit at the end of this part of the story. So it would be interesting to see how everything started. But yeah.
I think a prequel would be pretty cool. And you can also maybe the witch started during Salem, during the time in the witches and the witch trials, where the witch could start in Salem and then, slowly got to, escape and went to Berlin. I would like to see something like that involve something with the Salem witch trials into this prequel, which, pursued her to go to Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Christina?
I love it. I want to know. I mean, diving into this character, she could be really iconic, and I think she's got a lot to say. So I would be up for that.
I'm also a big fan of the music scores too. Who did the score in the film?
Suvi, she's a Finnish composer that lives here in England, in Bristol, close to London. No, she was fantastic because I always wanted to have a score that is not the classic score for horror movies where everything is spoon-fed and you have heard kind of the same thing 1,000 times. I wanted to have something that ties up a little bit with the story of paganism and how the witches were not created, but the origin of the witches and the relationship that they have with the earth. Because I see it also as a very earthy character, and that's what we were trying to do and work with sand, with bones, with rocks, with different kind of instruments. And I think the main thing for it was to create this oddness in the atmosphere, but at the same time the beauty of the music and bring you to that side of the witch, this, because she's in the middle of the two worlds, the world of the living and the world of the dead. And I think Suvi was fantastic.
I think it too. I loved it because it gave that eeriness feel to it. Because some music scores in some horror films are also part of the character too. Like in certain scenes, you can use certain music scores for the character in the film. Like if they're in danger or going to get ready to kick ass or something. I love how, the score can, be part of the film. And then one more last question to you guys. Christina, if you were going to write a horror film and have Alberto as the main star, what type of horror film would you put him in?
I would do a werewolf movie. I think that would be fun for you.
I don't have enough hair for that, Christina.
You would get it. You would grow it.
That would be awesome. What about you, Alberto? If you were directing or making a movie, what type of horror film would you put Christina in?
I think it would be something like Misery, because she's that kind of person that you would trust and be so sweet and so polite and everything. But behind that facade is a serial killer. It's something that is going to make your life hell. So something along those lines, yeah.
If I was going to write a horror film in the script, I would make Christina a serial killer. She'd be like a normal, like housewife at home during the day with the kids, and while the kids are going to school, then she gets down to business and she goes after her victims, and she has them like hidden in the basement, so she's getting ready to go down on town, and she's like hoping the kids don't like catch her. I can see her. I agree with you. I can see her as a suburban mother serial killer.
And
I love it.
You made a mistake. You didn't copyright it. She's going to start writing it tonight.
Hey, she can write whatever she wants. All right, guys. So, what are your next projects you're going to do, and where can everybody find you on social media? And where can I find to watch that short film, Baghead, before it was a feature? I would love to see the short.
You start, Christina. What's next?
My socials, generally just my name, Christina Pamies. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, etc. I've been working on a lot of short stories lately. As I said, I like writing prose a lot, and this happened like during the writer's strike. There was, when we weren't doing too much with film, I just got into writing short stories, which is something I haven't been doing since college. So this is this is where I've been concentrating now. I would love to keep doing that, and maybe some of them can then go on to be adapted into film. But for now, that's where I've been spending a lot of energy.
Yeah, for me, it's I had already a project that is with some producers trying to attach cast at the moment. Like Christina said, it was very difficult during the strike. Everything got stopped. So it's kind of starting now to move again. So in the meantime, it's also, I decided that I wanted to start writing also a bit, because it's difficult otherwise to get the good scripts, You have to create them yourself. But definitely, what I promised myself is the next movie that I'm going to make is not going to be PG, because I need to get the real Alberto out there, and the next one has to be an R-rated movie. I just always wanted to do an R-rated movie, horror movie. Baghead is PG, which is great. It's a movie I'm really proud of. But I think now I have to make the next step and really let out the craziness.
Oh, I could see Alberto doing some craziest film. I can see it because it'll be like very bloody and gory, an awesome, eerie, gory soundtrack, and I can see him getting a great cast, and it'd be one of those like blood or splatter type of practical effect type of film. I'd be so game to see a film like that by Alberto.
Thank you. We'll try our best. And apart from that, if you want to watch the short, I think now it's available in, I don't know if it's in Canal Plus or Studio Canal's digital platforms. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can access it outside from Europe, but at the moment they are going to show it in conjunction with the feature movie to have like a double bill with it.
I'm so looking forward to it. Like I said, when you guys told me, I learned a lot tonight. I didn't know it started off as a short film. I thought it just started off as a film, which I watched on Shudder, which, I'm glad I got to check it out. And I want to say I had a blast tonight. Thank you so much for coming on. You guys were great.
Thank you for having us.
All right. And everybody, thank you for listening to Horror Pop After Midnight. Have a